So before I start this video, I just want to say that this is the second time I'm having to record and edit this video because the original video that I made, the file crashed, and that's why it did not post last week. If I sound a bit unenthused, that's why. I'm just a bit discouraged. It's not a big deal, really. It could have been worse, but that's just why. But anyway, on to the video. For the opening week of the Dogman movie, I went to go see it with my younger brother because he's a huge fan of the Dogman books. And I really loved that movie, so I'll probably talk about it next week. But anyway, there were of course previews for this movie, and one of the previews was the trailer for Disney's Snow White live-action remake. If I'm being honest, I really didn't want to talk about Disney's live-action remake because it's just another one of them, and I really wasn't interested in the Snow White movie. I wasn't gonna go see it, so I saw no point in talking about it. But whenever I saw the trailer, I just had some thoughts that I wanted to get out there. And a lot of people have talked about this, so I'm not really sure if I'm adding anything new to the table, but like I said, I just want to get my opinions out there. So if you've seen the trailer, you already know that Snow White's character is now completely different. Instead of needing a hero and probably getting poisoned by the apple, she's instead a girl boss who doesn't need no man, and she's instead bent on getting her kingdom back from the evil queen. Which I just want to say that that's not a bad thing. A story like that would be pretty interesting, but it just doesn't work for Snow White. Snow White already has a good enough story, so there's no point in changing it. And of course there's the argument of, well, they're making her a girl boss and stuff, but like, there's already been versions of Snow White that are girl bosses that still stick to the original source material. And what I'm referencing here is Once Upon a Time. Now, if you haven't seen Once Upon a Time, I'm gonna get into some spoilers right here. I haven't watched all of Once Upon a Time. I got to the part where Rumpelstiltskin almost killed Captain Hook and then he was banished by Belle, yet he still somehow figured out a way to get back into the town. I got that far, but I feel like I saw enough of Snow White's character to know what she was like. She helped the prince, she's pretty athletic and can stand on her own 2 feet, but she still gets poisoned by the apple. And that's perfectly fine. Just because she needs help doesn't mean she's any less strong. But from the looks of the trailer of this remake, she's not going to be saved by the prince, and Rachel Zegler even said in an interview that she's not going to be saved by the prince.
What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that
she's
is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
It's just really disappointing, especially when Disney princesses are really iconic whenever it comes to Disney. And to me, it just feels like they're writing all these female characters that don't really have any flaws, which flaws are what makes the character relatable and interesting. If a character doesn't have flaws, they're not a girl boss, they're just boring. And you know, a lot of the original Disney princesses are pretty similar in their personality. They're all like curious and they want more in life, but their flaws are what make them stand out. Like Ariel, she's too naive and that gets her in some hot water. And Snow White, while she's kind and compassionate, that can come to a fault, especially whenever she lets the old woman in who turns out to be tricking her and poisons her with the apple. And I mentioned this in my last video talking about the problem with Disney's modern female characters. Don't watch that video, by the way, it's really old and I hate it. But I mentioned that it just feels like Disney isn't focusing on stories and instead focusing on a message that they want to send. Which, don't get me wrong, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a message in your story. Lots of compelling stories have messages in them. But you shouldn't prioritize shoving a message down people's throats over a good story. And I'm not one of those people who think Disney has completely fallen off the rails and they're just all terrible now, everything they make is trash. But this one just isn't it for me. I really don't care for it that much, and I'm not gonna go see the movie. But all this was just my opinion, and now I'd like to hear yours. I want to know if you guys agreed or disagreed with some of the points I made. I am excited to talk about the Dogman movie next week, though, because I really love that movie, and if you guys haven't seen it, I recommend checking that movie out. It's really good. But with all that being said, thank you for watching this video in its entirety, and I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you next week. Goodbye!